Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Vance Air Force Base. Unless this is your first time here, in which case just welcome. And if you were already here, then thanks for showing up. Yep, that's right, we're using the exact same opening shot as last video. For those of you who weren't here for 1714's track select, we're going to give you a little recap to bring you up to speed on how we got to the here and now. Vance Air Force Base lies within the city limits of Enid, Oklahoma, a location known for its distinct lack of geological and geographical features for student pilots to hit. Class 1714 began its road to wings in August of 2016, when a gaggle of lieutenants were herded into aerophysiology, where they were taught the trials and tribulations of low-oxygen environments, how to and how not to struggle with parachutes, and how to stave off the largely objectionable grip of air sickness. After about a month of that and academics, they were sent to the 33rd Flying Training Squadron and divided into T-Flight, who considered themselves to be the more handsome of the two flights, and U-Flight, who considered themselves to be the more handsome of the two flights. They worked 12-hour days in small, near-windowless rooms, studying, prepping for flights, being chided by instructors, finding a comfy place to study for just 5 more minutes, celebrating even the smallest victories, or embracing the doing it live lifestyle. All this to learn the Beechcraft Texan 2, not this plane sim IPs. And learn they did, to take off and land, to fly aerobatics, take the plane out solo, fly instruments without outside visual references, and then do all of that with a wingman 10 feet away. In March, after about 6 months of T6s, 1714 track selected, and they were assigned to learn either the T1 or the T38. The Northrop T-38C Talon is a most weather-capable dual-seat turbojet trainer, the follow-on aircraft for which are usually fighters and bombers. It's expected to remain in service until 2010. The T-1 Jayhawk is a trainer whose follow-on aircraft can generally be surmised as tankers, heavies, or transport. Having been converted from the civilian Beechcraft 400, it has all the amenities that a 40-year-old business jet design can muster. It can take on pretty much any weather you can throw at it, except for hail. That is absolutely a dig at Laughlin. The students assigned to T-38s went back to the same building they were just in, the 25th Flying Training Squadron, located just across the hall from the 33rd. On both sides, learning a new plane meant more studying, stand-up, new emergency procedures, and general existential panic before establishing a normal routine. Sorties can be prepped and briefed in relatively short order, since the longest you can fly in a T-38 is about 1.4 hours. Students assigned to the T-1 went across the street to the 3rd Flying Training Squadron. Their days usually begin with an early showtime, followed by dismay at changes in the flying schedule seemingly made overnight. Mission prep time varies based on a number of factors, like mission complexity, weather, and the instructor's lunch preferences. Briefings normally last around an hour, and usually happen right when the weather drastically changes to force students to change all of their plans last minute. Back in the 25th, the brief has been over for 10 minutes, and Lieutenant Wiles at the step desk, where the supervisor does a quick once-over of his risk management form and gives a short brief about how icing makes planes explode. From the step desk, it's a short walk over to aircrew flight equipment to strap on G-suits for that onesie-wearing cowboy look, and then off to the buses and the T-38. T-38 ground ops are surprisingly curt, and their missions are too, although they have the potential to be very physically exhausting. A short turnover time means that students can be thrown at the jet up to 3 times a day as a sacrifice to the sacred training timeline. Once the engines are spun up, it's important to get to the runway as fast as possible. The T-38 has been described by sources as able to convert fuel to noise at a rate that is exuberant and not good. At this point, you might be wondering what's been going on the T1 side of things. Well, they're still briefing. After that's all said and done, they head on up to the step desk and get a similar brief from the operations supervisor before someone ruins your shot. This is also where crews get assigned an aircraft, file their flight plan, and check which part of the jet will be broken that day. The hardest step in this process may be using the fax machine, the manual for which is actually larger than the T1's. And after radioing transportation, it's a short walk out to the buses for a shuttle out to the plane of the day for something like a 3-hour sortie. Ground operations in the T1 are fairly extensive, and start with a check of the aircraft forms for any broken things that really matter, followed by an interior and pre-engine start inspections. Lieutenant Polacek can be seen here pretending to know what switches to flip, and shortly after that he remembers he's supposed to be in the right seat this time. The rest of the inspections, startup, 27 some odd step trim check, and pretending to know how to put a flight plan in the flight management system can take some time, but that's okay. The Air Force wouldn't have outfitted the T1 with an extra fuel tank if they didn't want us to take our time, right? With all that said and done, we'll probably make it out to the taxiway in time to see Lieutenant Weil making his way back from a sortie. Oh, look at that, there he is. And I suppose it's probably time for some blatant visual non sequitur where we cut off a